Well guys, we're into it. We're into food spreading. Now we've got the old girl out here. Well, two old girls really. The old tractor, she's all faithful, keeps going, does the job, does the trick. I like to first of all make an apology for those rims right there. They were free and we needed a narrow set for doing crops, so that was an easy option really. They're a little bit small and max speed in that tractor now is about 28 km per hour. It took me about 5 hours to reach the top of the farm. So yeah, no, not good. But yeah, honestly it is a wee bit slow. She is heavily weighted at the back. It is a 4-cylinder of course, so we've got the weights on the front. Now for our food spreading, we tend to spread the average of 10 kgs per week, but we do it every 5 weeks, so that's 50 kgs we spread, or just a little bit over by our calculations, and we obviously spread every 5 weeks at that rate of 50 kgs. That food spreader there, even though it is old and you're probably, you know, alarm bells are ringing, it still does a bloody good job. It spreads evenly and it always does the right amount. The only thing that happens that's a little bit unfortunate is there'll be little pebbles, or sorry, little clods go down past the mesh and it will slightly block one of the gates, so it won't be putting out as much. So if you see a difference between the two V bottoms in the food spreader, it's because one's slightly blocked. It's not because one's opened up and throwing heaps out, it's because one's slightly blocked and the other one's doing a good job. So just what happens really. I do clean it out each time before I refill, but it's something that just happens guys. It is set to empty the same at the same rate, but unfortunately that does happen from time to time. So it is certified and up to scratch, that old food spreader, and this old girl just loves this outing. It's got GPS on it. It's not auto steer, but I just follow the lights. It's what they call a light bar, I guess, with the little screen there showing where you've been, highlighting where you've been. So I just follow those lights as I go up the paddock. You will see little squiggles here and there. That's just me losing concentration. So yeah, that's about it. So it spreads 24 meters wide, and of course in these paddocks we just do half the paddocks at a time, and then next week we'll come around and do the other half before I head away on holiday. So right, let's crack on to it. So I've moved on to the next paddock, and it's a pretty quick thing, foot spreading, because you're just moving so fast, not only up the paddock, but you're spreading so far as well, being 24 meters. Now I just thought I'd show you the GPS that I'm following. It's a very basic setup, nothing fancy at all, but it does the job for us and it still complies. So anyway, here it is here. So as you can see, I'm just sitting in between those two lines. So that A is technically in the last paddock that I was in. Now that was just where I set that A and B line up, of course, but if I want to change paddocks, which I do, to go into this paddock, I just go through here. So these are pre-recorded, I've already set these. So I'm in paddock U at the moment, so I'll hit that one, and as you can see, those lines slightly changed angle because this paddock is slightly ajar to the last one. Now unfortunately these fence lines are, both of them on each side of this paddock U, are slightly ajar from each other, so they're not parallel. Now I'll just throw a little bit over the fence into the fodder beet. It's no biggie, there's a very little amount going in there, and it's only for one small stretch of the paddock, so it's nothing big. It's not like I'm throwing it into the neighbour's paddock or anything like that. It's still on our property, so pretty simple. But yeah, I thought I'd just show you guys through that system. There is a little dome up on the roof, and that is getting signal from a satellite, I believe. So yeah, that's how she works. Now the headlands, I just go equal with the troughs so that we're not throwing it onto the laneway and wasting it. It's a precious thing, fertilizer, of course. It is quite expensive, so we like to look after it. So I'll just head straight down beside the water troughs, and that keeps me a good distance away from the laneway. So right, let's crack into it, another paddock. Well guys, we've moved another paddock, and as you can see, we're getting quite a sunny day here in Canterbury. We do get a couple of them every now and then. Of course, for spreading fertilizer, a little bit of rain now and then doesn't hurt. So we've got the irrigator coming around to water in the fert, but what about the dryland corners? What do we do with them? Well, unfortunately there's no feed on there, so if I was to go chuck urea on there, it would be chucking money down the drain and just wasting it. There's no leaf there, there's no plant, there's no active plant there to take up the nutrients, so there's no point in spreading it on the dryland corners. So we've got one just ahead of us here, and I'll be skipping it out. I'll be turning the machine off and then back on again once I come off it. So yeah, we don't tend to waste fertilizer on the dry land, particularly this one in front of me. Through the winter we'll be running a line across and putting in corner sprinklers there, just to take up that effectively useless lands. Now it is, from about November it starts dying off when the weather gets hot. Now it's just useless here in March. Getting to the end of the season, it won't be useful at all. It would take quite a lot of rain to turn it around. Of course, that's probably not going to come. So other little thing is that goes with the dry land is we can't go spreading fert if the heifers have just been there. So if they've decked it right down, we can't go and spread fert on there because there's no leaf there to take up that nutrients. There's no plant like there is here to take up that nutrients. So we tend to just skip those paddocks out, and we'll come back next week on our second half of our round, effectively our last half of our round next week. When the heifers move, we can do them behind them, and that grass would have come back as well. Now we also can't spread fert 3 days ahead of the heifers, so where they'll be moving we can't spread there because the grass will be too hot for them to eat effectively. So that's just what we do personally. Other farmers may do it differently. I know that a lot of dairy farmers follow the fert spreader around behind the herds. That works for them. What works for us is that we come out here every 5 weeks. Right, I better get back onto the job. Enough talking about it, let's get back into it. Paddocks, guys, as you may have noticed, are actually looking a wee bit worse for wear, and that's a fair assumption to make actually, because it's the 3rd year that they've been in. The Italian ryegrass paddocks that are taking the biggest hits, and unfortunately they have adapted a grass crop. So I thought I'd just quickly show you something here, guys, but as you can see, we get some of these clods come through, so there's just a little bit of moisture has made contact with the fertilizer, and it's caused it to go into a little nugget like this. Now obviously if I squeeze it, it breaks back down. So, but I don't want anything to do with these little guys, because they go down in there and they'll block the gates. They'll block the fertilizer from getting out the gates. Now, as I explained earlier, one side will drain faster than the other. It's because one side unfortunately would have got blocked by one of those ever so slightly, and so it drains at an uneven rate. Now that just effectively means I'm putting on less than what I'm wanting to do. So is what I'll do now is actually just clean that out. We just go and get one large sump of fertilizer, and then 1 week, like so this week, we'll be doing a round, or sorry, half a round, and then when the heifers move and also leaf comes back, next week we'll come back round and do the next half of that round. So as what I'm saying is the trailer will be parked away. We may get some moisture may contact the fertilizer when it's sitting in the trailer, fog or the dew gets in there and just makes basically a blanket of that over top of the fertilizer. And what we do to reverse the situation and get back to just little pellets or pebbles is we put it through the auger. We auger it into the fertilizer spreader, and what that does is break down those clods, and I'm able to spread it again, or else you'll be in there. Well, I do go in there with a spade and smash it all up just to help the auger out. Yeah. So I'll be keeping those, throwing them back into the trailer, and they'll go through the auger and be broken up. Now a few of you are probably thinking, oh, the auger will actually smash those pellets up. Those little pebbles they'll get smashed up and cracked and won't be thrown correctly by the fertilizer spreader. But it's nothing really to be worried about. I've run the auger at a very slow speed, and it's just enough to break these guys up, but not enough to actually crack the pellet. Anyway guys, the battery's about to run out, but I better get back, reload, and fire out some more pellets or pebbles. So anyway, cheers.